Welcome to the Urban Uplander Podcast. This collaborative series, created by Urban Uplander Pet Care LLC, was designed to facilitate continual learning. Join your host, Melinda Benbow, and her special guests weekly to learn all things about pet care, dog sports, bird dog training, and so much more.
All right, thank you so much for joining in on our second ever Urban Uplander Podcast episode. My name is Melinda Benbow. I'm the owner and operator of Urban Uplander Pet Care LLC, and I'm going to be your host for this series. I am so fortunate to have one of my favorite people on this podcast today. She's truly been an integral part to what got me started in my upland journey. So I'm super happy you're able to sit down with us today. We have Holly Hatfield of Red River Vizslas. So thank you again. And can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, my name is Holly Hatfield. As Melinda introduced me, I am the person behind the two-legged person behind Red River Vizslas, which is now Red River Bird Dogs, because I have since added 2 pointers to my crew. A little bit about me. My little bird dogs, I guess. I've had dogs now for about 25 years. Yikes. It's been about 25 years. Wow. And I've been doing this game for a little bit, and we've dabbled in quite different venues, done everything from conformation to agility to obedience to therapy work, and kind of settled in what makes us the most comfortable and most happy, which tends to be what bird dogs do, and that's birds. So I guess that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I think you're really selling yourself short on how much you really do with these dogs. That was a short intro for everything I see going on in your world, but thank you again for coming on. So Holly, like I said, you are an integral part of my upland journey. I've only been doing this about 3-4 years now. And I think when we first met, I didn't even have a bird dog yet. So we met at the Indy Winter Classic, which is an annual event that happens here in Indianapolis. I think it's typically over Valentine's Day weekend. And you were with, I believe you're from Pat, and I hadn't settled on a breed that I wanted for bird dogs. So I wanted to just go check out the sporting dogs and meet the owners and the handlers and just learn more about them. And I sat down to watch the Vizslas. And I couldn't have met better people, being you and Pat. So she told me all about you and your, I think at the time, protege, just the best bird dog around, which was Capone, and got me super excited to join one of your groups, which is the KPBA, the Kentucky Indiana Pointing Breed Association. She mentioned that would be a wonderful place to get started on my upland side of the journey. So yeah, I got to meet you guys there, and I did end up going to the KPBA per her instruction. And I don't know if you know this, but that was that February, and then I went that March to see the double hunt test. I'd never been to one yet, and I'd actually never even shot over a dog at this point. I hadn't even shot a bird in general, actually. So I went out that Friday, and Don, the gentleman that owns the property out there, as you know, took me on my first guided hunt. I got to get out on birds with him and his German short hair, Ava, I believe her name was. And it was truly an amazing weekend. And that weekend's really what sparked me into saying, like, yes, I'm going to do this. And I think that's all honestly attributed to meeting you. So thank you again for being such a wonderful part of my journey. You also have a wonderful Facebook group called Bitches and Bird Dogs. It is and if you're a female listening to this and you're thinking about dabbling in the hunting community, I highly recommend joining this group. I know Facebook groups can be intimidating, but I think out of all of them out there, this is probably one of the awesomest communities. Can you tell our listeners what got you to create this group and the intent behind that?
Okay, so it really was almost kind of just serendipity. I was sitting around one night and kind of texting back and forth with a friend of mine. She actually has a puppy from Capone, and we were talking, and just kind of out of the blue, I said to her, I said, I think it would be kind of fun to start a Facebook group and just call it Bitches with Bird Dogs. And it kind of got silent there for a minute on our chat. And I thought, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea. And, it's like, is this on? And she said, yeah, do it. And I thought, okay. So, I had you have your kind of core group of Vizsla ladies, and I thought, okay, well, I can get them in, and I know they would do it. I'm like, okay, well, what's your platform, and I don't want anything to be too strict. People who know me know that's typically not really my behavior, and I just want a group of ladies. This is generally, you get into a sport that tends to be male dominating. Mm-hmm. And as someone who started out with a Vizsla, it showing up at field trials and hunt tests and these events by myself with a dog, and kind of getting ribbed and poked and mm-hmm. things, you learn to take it and stuff. And I thought, it's kind of fun to have another female counterpart there with some indoor plumbing to kind of take these punches with you. Absolutely. And this sport has grown. I think in my experience, we've seen, and I've seen, some really tremendous female competitors, both Vizsla owners and other sporting breed owners and trainers that have really put their mark on the sport of bird dogs. And so it was kind of like, in jest, I made the comment, but not in jest. And so I thought it would just kind of be neat to band these women together, just as a place for us to air our junk. And so I just kind of threw it together, and I didn't want people to get in there and start, trashing men and stuff. That's not what it's about. But use it for us and talk about how we can't find pants that fit. We can't find a good hunting vest that fits around a big chested woman. And, I don't have that problem, but, things like that. And, it's hard to find a shotgun that fits us. It's hard to find, because we're different. We're cut from a different mold, but yet we can hang in the field.
Absolutely.
So, but then it's nice for us to also get together and celebrate our successes, and we've had some big wins in that group. And so I did it, and I didn't realize how big it would get. And I think I looked right before you and I met here. I've had it for 3 years now, and it's got almost 2,800 women in it.
Wow.
I know, right?
That is growth. That is,
and maybe phenomenal. like 5 men. So
yeah, we can't exclude them. There's always a place for men, but right. No, I think that is an amazing reason to start it. Right? You hit the nail on the head. For women, we don't, especially within a male-dominated sport, we don't always have the outlets to share our successes and share our woes. And you've built such a wonderful community that when I go to hunt tests, because this past year was my first year getting out to actually hunt tests, finally having a dog to do it with. And it's neat showing up to these events and seeing these faces and these names that I've known from your group. And you're right, there are some amazing women within this community, and it's I'm not sure I would know of them without, you creating this group. So big applaud to you. And when you're talking about us not having the right vest, I'm just over here silent snapping like, yes, to help people. That's a struggle.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's hard. It's difficult. I always find myself like, okay, I'm seriously not going over to the men's group. I'm not going over there. I'm not. And it's nice now. I mean, we're seeing more and more women's lines of clothing come out in the field. And, they're, because we are making a presence more in that area. And it's nicer to see more women doing things like, you're creating your own, paths and roads. So, I mean, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's truly, it is awesome. And, that's part of what's going to keep this sport around as well, right? Is being able to have those places for women and people that don't look like the traditional male hunters. So, again, thank you so much for that. And if you haven't joined the group, I highly recommend, if you're listening, hop on right now. Bitches with Bird Dogs. It's a wonderful place to go.
My phone's going to start blowing up with,
I know, right? Well, I hope that gets to that point.
Sure.
It might be a slow build.
Not a problem.
Yes.
I was just shocked with all of a sudden, I'm approving like 20 and 30 people a day. I'm like, holy moly.
I'm telling you, you really have built something awesome over there. So, I want to say congratulations, but I think it's something that yes, it's a good thing for all of us. So now, aside from that, you said you've done the confirmation and a litany of other events. I know I follow you on social media, and I have for the longest time. So I've got to see just, all these wonderful things you go out and do. But you said, you keep coming back to what you and the dogs enjoy most, which is the birds. Now, when it comes to the birds, what is your favorite? Do you prefer getting out on the wild birds, the hunt tests, the field trials? What do you and your dogs really love to get out and do with birds?
Well, I guess I'll have to say that, I live in Kentucky, so wild birds are really not plentiful in Kentucky. So I'm not saying that we're without them, because we're not. It's just they're not plentiful. So for me, it has been doing field trials, which to this point have been AKC, or American Kennel Club field trials. And I have done some AKC hunt tests as well. So to this point, that has been what I have done primarily. I have done a little bit of, I've done some NAVDA work, which I think is incredible, and I look forward to doing more of that. Capone, the dog that everybody seems to, be talking about, you said Patty was boasting about, and I can talk about Capone. He actually did some advanced NAVDA training with some trainers up in South Dakota, and you talk about impressive and seeing true talents and things come out in your dog that I personally could not bring out in him.
Yeah.
Just are amazing. I mean, it's amazing to see dogs that, if they're bred to do that, it's like they come alive.
Absolutely.
And, he was 7 when he went up to to those trainers to see, to be trained, just to see if it would, if he could do it. There was no pressure. And to see like a whole new universe open up for this dog. We found out that ducks were this dog's jam.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. And he became a duck dog. So it's just nice to see that happen, that, things that you never think could happen all of a sudden do.
Yeah, that's interesting. From such an already talented dog to hear that there's just so much more talent just smushed into that dog, just waiting to be unlocked. Yeah. Sometimes when we have other trainers step in, even I make most of my living doing basic obedience. And, I thought I was just so ready to get my hands on my first bird dog. And not to say that I wasn't ready or we didn't have a good time training, but sometimes when you're able to just kind of hand that leash off and be a spectator of what your dog can do, you really get blown away by these dogs just by sitting on the sidelines and seeing what someone else can do with them. And even like you said, at that age, there's just these dogs know no limits. They're ready to learn and keep moving and keep pushing. And you did mention ducks with Navda. I think, are you part of Hoosier Hills? Is that correct?
We've been up there a few times. I haven't been up there probably since last spring.
Sure. I think the last time we saw each other up there was maybe one of the last times I was up there as well. But I did realize ducks are Shug's loving some ducks this year. I think, I've had her in the wrong game the whole time,
Right. Old nasty ducks.
Yeah. Not the funnest to have to handle and keep around, but whatever the dog's like, right?
Right. Yeah. My family have come over to my house and opened up my freezer and looked at me like, do we need to make a phone call? Because I've had dove and duck and pheasant and everything else frozen sitting in the freezer. And they look at me like, Like, yeah, no, it's for retrieving training. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, Holly. Sure it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the one thing I think our newest employee kind of had to deal with going in the freezer was the faces that stare back at him when he opens it.
Yeah.
It's for training. I swear.
It's fine.
So
just get what you need and get out. Just get what you need. It's fine.
Right. Don't look them right in their eyes. So no, that's awesome. Navda has been fun. I've enjoyed that as well. This first year I had a whole bunch of expectations and goals, like I think anyone who is super excited about a new passion would have. And, we had a lot of awesome moments and we had a lot of oh shit moments, but you learn from those oh shit moments and you adjust and you keep going. So, coming full circle, like I said, I met you through Indy Winter Classic. You guys told me about KPBA, and then I got to run my very first hunt test back at KPBA. So that was a really neat kind of full circle moment for us. And it was interesting, being the first time you see these events all the time and then you do it and it's, a little bit different than you expect. So
sure.
Again, thank you for that, because I don't think I would have even known where to test if I hadn't met you.
I was having one of those moments when I think I met you because I had a dog with me named Pippa.
Yes.
And this was Pippa's first dog show. And Pippa was a very over exuberant dog, and which is fine with me. I would much rather have that in the show ring than a dog that is a little reluctant to do things. But Pippa was like showing a wet noodle in the show ring, and it was taking every ounce in me to, just to get her to stand still. And she was very happy to be there, and it was a great day for Pippa. And, she was happy to tell the judge by kissing his face and wrapping her arms around him. And so it was, I was fully enthralled with, oh my goodness, good. Come on. So yeah.
I actually have, I pulled out my old camera, and the first pictures that popped up were pictures of you and Pippa in the show ring. So I'm going to have to pull those off that camera and get those sent to you, because I think I've captured each of those little moments that you're talking about.
I can't wait.
I know, her giving the judge a kiss, and but you're right. When it comes to getting into something new, I think the main thing is just to do it, and in doing it, you get to talk to these people that have been doing it forever just started doing it and can weigh in on their experiences. And it just it helps ignite something in you. And so even getting to see you and Pippa get to start this journey or that journey together was also definitely something that ignited something in me as well. So
yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was fun for me too, because Pippa was a dog that she didn't live with me. I shared ownership with her, with a family, and so she actually belonged to a family, and we shared ownership. And people hear a lot of bad connotations when they hear of co-ownerships and stuff, and I don't do that very often with my dogs and my puppies, and it's usually under some very special circumstances that I do. But her owners live about a half an hour from me, so she truly was a co-owned dog. I mean, she lived with me quite a bit. They would go on vacation, Pippa stayed with me. They would take little trips, Pippa stayed with me. I got missing Pippa came over, we needed to train for some birds. Pippa came here. So it was very, Pippa had puppies. Of course, she came to stay with me. So she was definitely a co-owned dog. And she would come in the house and my other dogs would look at me like, oh, she's back. So
great, she's here.
Yeah, and she learned very quickly where her spot in the pecking order was, and she came in like, yes, I'm here.
I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, so, but yeah, she unfortunately Pippa, we lost Pippa this year shortly after her litter. I sent her home after her puppies were weaned, and her owners had the tragic event of losing her to being hit by a car.
Oh no.
Yeah. And yeah, it was devastating. I mean, I don't think that either of us have fully gotten ourselves wrapped around that event. Because it's one of those that you just never imagined that, hey, this is the last time that we're ever going to get to hang. So yeah, and she was definitely a dog that marched to the beat of her own drummer. So
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But you can hear it, as you talk about her. You can hear just how much you loved her, and it did sound in your voice.
One of my own, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was like
sorry.
one of my own little critters here. So it was a very hard call as a breeder to take.
But you make a wonderful point. And I know that this episode isn't completely on breeding, but when we do have puppies, and I unfortunately haven't got to that part of my journey yet, but you take on the responsibility for all these puppies forever, even when they leave your home and even when they're not co-owned. And I imagine that it's something that you probably never really adjust to, having all these puppies in the world and having to hear about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But, it's that beautiful part of the journey as well.
It is. I think, having, I've been very blessed as also being a breeder of Vizslas, to have had some very wonderful mentors to help me throughout that process. We have mentors and trainers for field training, and we go to show training classes, agility training classes and stuff. But, breeding is a process. We need to learn how to evaluate pedigrees and learn about the history of our dogs and, what's there, what's not, and learn how to work around those things, and learn how to deal with them when something shows up, because it will, and it does. And I think, and deal with the human nature aspect of it. the one thing that my mentors have been is, they're still there. I still use them. My first litter was bred 17 years ago. So I still use them, and we still talk, and I bounce things off of them all the time. They bounce things off of me now, which makes me feel kind of special. I'm like, wait a minute.
Full circle moments. I'm telling you, they're special.
My mentor actually turned around and bred to my stud dog. And when that happened, I about fell out of my chair.
That's a big badge of honor.
I seriously, I thought, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they don't, the goal I keep in mind is that always the day that puppy leaves my house and that the day that they leave yours is as far apart as it can be. And that's all I can do.
Yes.
That's all I can try to do, is just make those 2 days as far apart as they can. And that everything in the middle is good, is deep. And, I can't promise you a show champion. I can't promise you a field champion. I can help you.
Sure.
And we can do what we can to give you those tools, but nothing like that is ever promised.
No.
We can just promise that we're going to try to give you these healthy, happy, well-bred dogs.
And I think that's doing a lot more than most, to be honest. And, to ensure that you're breeding the dogs that are showing that they're worth being breeding, whether that's through proving them through, all the confirmation you do, the field trials, the hunt tests, the health tests and everything else. I think that in terms of ethical breeding, I would say you're high on that list. And, when I get to the point of breeding, I definitely hope that I can call and join this web of mentorship, because I'm going to need all the help I can get. I started doing a couple of AKC, they have the different breeding courses through the AKC college.
Yeah.
And I think almost every class I take, I end up crying through it, because there's so much that I think you don't, or not you personally, but people don't think about when it comes to breeding their dogs. The what if something happens to mom, the what if something happens to puppy, and the signs to when medical intervention has to happen. And you hit the nail on the head with, there are things that are going to pop up genetically in any breed. And I think that's pretty standard. I think most breeds have about 4 different genetic issues that you're going to have to focus on. And, to be aware of those and to breed the best you can to keep that at bay, and not breed the dogs that, that are presenting these things. I think that you're doing a wonderful job over there. Vizsla was like my main first breed. We definitely have them around, and I really thought when I was going to get my own dog that it was going to be one, but it didn't go that way. But you're doing a wonderful job over there with breeding and everything you do with your Vizslas. So.
Well, look what I did. I had Vizslas for, 20 something years, and look what now.
That is literally where I was going. I'm like, so you have these red, as I call the red pointers.
Right.
What prompted you to bring in these English pointy dogs?
Right. I knew that was coming. All right. You can't hide them for too long. No.
You can't.
So my dog Tempo, which I know you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Tempo is one of my Vizslas that I bred. He was diagnosed with stage 4 T-cell lymphoma at the age of 4. He actually got his diagnosis the same day I got diagnosed with the flu. So we were just 2 peas in a pod.
It was a rough day, I'm sure.
That day was just one that I just said, you know what, buddy, we going back to bed.
Yep.
So and I put jammies on, and we just went back to bed. That was just rough. So anyway, he probably, all signs indicated that he was probably stage 5, which was, you can't really go any worse than that, because his blood work, his platelets were pretty much nil. But I was not about to do bone marrow to confirm it, because it wouldn't have changed anything that we did.
Sure.
So anyway, not to drag this story out for the rest of our time. Tempo went through chemo. He went into remission, and Tempo lived what any young dog with cancer could have lived for 500 days. He lived with his cancer for 500 days, which in my vet's practice was the longest that any dog who had been diagnosed with lymphoma had ever lived. And in that, I changed his diet. He went on a ketogenic diet. He was on supplements. He went to a holistic vet, the whole 9 yards. So when Tempo passed away, Tempo and Capone were extremely good friends. They were bros. And Capone was away in training in South Dakota. When Capone came back, Capone kind of tanked. So, it was noticeable, and I don't know if it was because Tempo was gone or because I was upset. Either way, I thought, okay, I got to get another male in this house. I can't have another Vizsla right now. For me, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I just could not. I didn't want anything out of what I bred, not because I was afraid of it, but I didn't know if I wanted to breed.
Yeah, you needed a change.
And I thought, I just don't know. So, being in the field community and having been to a lot of field trials, I liked the pointers. I liked watching them. Here in Kentucky, we have quite a decent pointer community. And at this point, I knew a few friends who had pointers. And so I thought, I'm going to get a pointer. But I didn't need one. I wanted something I could manage. I could not handle an all-age pointer. Didn't have a horse. Couldn't do that,
I need to keep up with the dog. Gotcha.
I need something realistic here, folks. So so I reached out to a couple of my friends and just said, hey, no hurry. If you see anything that think I might be interested in, could fit in this house. Well, then I guess it became everybody's mission to find Holly a dog. So Holly had not purchased a dog, from a breeder.
Yeah.
In 17 years, 15 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
My own dogs came from me. So I was nervous. I was really nervous about this. And so a friend of mine found a breeder outside of Paducah who had 2 males left. And I could have gone home with both of those stinking pointers. They were so cute.
Oh.
And along came Token, and there's my first pointer. I was just so impressed by, this little boy. He was just all that and the chips.
He was very stinking cute. I would say
he still is, but
he is a handsome boy. Yeah. But those puppy pictures, I'm telling you, I was looking at Shug. She's in the other room. She can't hear. I was looking at her like, well, damn, I think I picked the wrong kind of dog. Because he was, those puppy pictures and videos of him, he's always seemed like such a natural. He's a pointer, so of course he's a natural hunter, but
yes,
he has grace and beauty since day one.
Yes, he is. I mean, he came in and for a dog who, I mean, he was raised out in his kennel with his other litter mates and stuff. I mean, but they had indoor time and came in the house. House broke easily. He slid right into our routine. He never challenged any of the dogs. He just was the most compliant little dog. I thought, this can't be right,
Yeah.
And just, the first time we put him out on birds and we worked him on birds, I got goosies.
That's awesome.
I got goosies. I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble. It's like, I'm in trouble.
Oh.
And the first field trial I ran him in is in a puppy stake. Of course, it was a walking trial, and I turned him loose and he took off, and the judge looks down at me and he says, "You're going to need a horse." I said, he'll be back. And, by the time I got up, to where I could see him, all I saw was this little white dot. And he came back, but it was just like, oh boy.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Yeah. So what did I do? I bought another one.
And then you got the horse to go along with it.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah. And of course I sent Token's breeder, an email, and was just like, your dog cost me a lot of money. He cost me a horse and a trailer and
oh gosh. But we do that for the dogs that really just show they're worth it, right?
Yes. And it's something I thoroughly enjoy. It's a passion I thoroughly enjoy. So the horse was just another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
To me, it was just another piece of the puzzle. Something I probably should have done years ago.
But I mean, that's part of the journey, and I think that you've presented an attainable journey to the outside person looking in. I think a lot of us expend a lot of money in these passions, especially in the bird dog community, I will say.
Oh, it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap at all. From the dogs to the training, the equipment to keep up with it, the birds, finding the places to go to work. It's not a cheap hobby. And it can't be a hobby. It has to be a passion, right? In order to throw what you throw into it, the blood, sweat, and tears as well. I'm telling you, and this past year, the amount of times I've cried and exactly, it's just not something you dabble in. You really have to be all in. But you've shown such an attainable journey to, folks like me who are like, oh shit, I need all these things. But you remember that, hey, it's a process, eventually the right moments happen, the right dogs come about, the right situations happen. And,
right.
Eventually you get the dogs and the land and the horse and the whole package.
Right. And I tried to relate this to someone who doesn't have dogs that they, I guess, invest as much time, money, effort. They have dogs for dogs, like
companionship.
Their family companionship. And tried to correlate it into something that they would understand. Because, I'm the crazy dog lady, or, they don't quite get it. And I said, first, I don't have children. So, and I'm not equating my dogs to kids because they're not. They're dogs. I don't refer to my dogs as fur babies. They're dogs. But I look at it in the same sense that if, I have a dog, we'll use Capone, who is exceptionally talented. He was born extremely talented. And I trained him through what I could train him through. And we did what we could in our journey. And then we came to, Capone was 7. And, at 7, Vizslas are kind of hitting their peak. This is a breed that's supposed to live to be 15.
Oh, wow.
They're known, or should be known, and bred for longevity. That's one of the reasons I loved that got me into this breed, is because they're supposed to live a long time.
Yeah, they'll be around.
Yeah. I mean, it's so they're supposed to be a hardy breed. And so at 7, his mom was just, I owned his mom too. She finished her dual championship at 7.
Oh, wow.
So she was at the peak of her career at 7. He, I started him and he finished earlier and did things sooner because I knew more, knew better with him. And he's a boy, and the boys learn better and faster, and they don't give you as much gruff as the bitches do.
Ah, good to know.
That's right. I mean, and that's, the boys are just up for anything. I mean, those boys, what are we doing today, boss? It's the same. And I don't know if it's the same for, the pointers, but Token, my pointer male, same way. What are we doing today, boss? Now Pocket, she got her own agenda. She's great and she's wonderful and I love working with her, but she'll get her own agenda. But anyway, so, at 7, Capone was still, he was still in his prime. But so I thought about, that's when I started to branch out into more advanced NAVHDA training. I didn't know what I was doing. I was flying by my britches. I had no idea. So at that point, I was trying to tell these people, I said, it's like you have a child that's extremely talented in piano. They're great in piano. You don't know anything about piano. So what do? You find them good piano instructors. You find them, you foster that talent in the best way you can because they're your child and you kind of owe it to them to do that. Mm. It's like if they were good in science or if they were good in something like that, you're going to educate them and provide them those opportunities. That's what we do for our kids. I did that for him.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. I found him a trainer. Granted, I had to go to South Dakota to do it. But wonderful trainer and they clicked. Those two just clicked. He saw Tate. He went up to Tate Martinson up in South Dakota. He saw Tate and he about lost his shit.
No.
And I have never seen Capone he knew I'm going to work.
Yeah.
He'd look back at me like, see you later. I'm like,
bye, Mom.
Right. Seriously. What am I? Just send money. Just send the money, Right. But, and it was funny. I went up to pick him up one time. He ran out, looked at me, ran back in their house. Like, I'm here with my new family.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Well, that's good. You want your dogs to find that with their trainers, yes. Right? There'd obviously be a situation if he came tail tucked, run into the car, like, let's get the hell out of here,
Yes. Or you knew that there was signs. Capone, he made his UT Prize 1. They started training for the Invitational.
Did you say UT Prize 1?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Oh, yes. It is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I actually was up there for the test. So I got to see a lot. So
did you have Tate handle him during the?
Heck yeah!
You go ahead and take this, Tate. I got you.
I was not gonna let Tate do the training and then me go in there and
step in
and derail that train. No, no.
Very smart, very smart woman.
Yes, no, No, I was a nervous wreck up there that day. And so I went up there. Oh, it was, I mean, I was so, I could see parts of the test and parts of it I couldn't. When he did his duck search, I could hear it, but because they were up over a dam, I couldn't see it. So I could hear him running around and he was barking. And he was so amped up for these ducks. And they were ducks because we could hear them. And then I hear, you know, the shot that they shoot to put him in the water. And then I hear him quit barking. And I look over at Tate's wife, at Jenny, and I said, he shot my dog. And I'm like, it was just, you know, I mean, he didn't, but it was
Sure.
because those are blanks. But they both came out, and you know, Tate is a handler on those days, is very stoic, and he, you know, he's got him on his lead and he's healing him away, and has the judges with him. And one of the judges was from California, whose father had Vizslas, and you know, they're kind of walking, and Tate comes back and he said he did a really nice job on his duck search. And I was like, oh, thank God. And that night at dinner, after they read, you know, we knew what the placements were and everything, or that he prized, the judge was sitting next to me and he said, that has to be probably one of the top 2 best duck searches I've ever seen.
That's amazing.
And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, here's this 7-year-old dog just, you know, screaming demon after these ducks in the water, which, you know, a lot of people will say that Vizslas don't like.
That's the next thing I was going to say. Yeah, there, you know, the water in Vizslas, I've definitely, the ones I know don't even want to go near it.
And that is something that as a breeder is extremely important to me, is to keep that water interest in them
within the blood. Sure.
Yes, that, you know, and I think it's all about what you do. I mean, you can breed it, but it's how you intro it, when you intro it.
Absolutely.
And it's all about, a lot of it is, you know, I tell my owners, I'm laying a foundation for you. It's up to you to build the house.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you know, I can do so much, but now it's up to you to, you know, build the house, go out there and continue what I've done.
And keep continuing, right? I mean, you hit the nail on the head with saying, you know, 7 years old, look at Capone doing new awesome things. You know, conditioning and training never stops. I hear the term broke and finished all the time. And, you know, and to some degree, I see that in a lot of dogs, but I don't think truly balanced dogs ever stop conditioning.
No, we've seen, and Capone's father, I believe, and, you know, I don't want anybody quoting me or fact checking this, because I don't, but I believe he won a national championship at 9.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he was older. So, I mean, these dogs, they're athletes. They're athletes. So they need that. I mean, even though Capone is retired from competition, he goes out and jumps my farm gate all the time. He still runs. He still works birds. Granted, he has no manners. He has but he's still a bird dog.
Yeah. That drive is always going to be there.
So, yeah. And so why just hang him up? I mean, I let him go out, and then I let my puppies rip birds out in front of him. And he looks at me as if he had a middle finger, he'd use it. I'm like, dude, you sometimes you just have to still be a good dog.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Oh,
yes.
That's awesome. Well, perfect. Yeah. You know, while we were talking about field trials, I know I mentioned it earlier, but Something I haven't told too many people is I am expecting my next English setter in 2 weeks.
No, are you?
Yes, I am. It's going to be a boy this time. I'm getting a male. His name's Jasper. He's coming from my mentor, Dr. Dale Hubbard, down in Alabama. This is his last litter as he, is aging and kind of done trying to chase puppies around. So, I really thought I was going to go with the show line this year to start dabbling in the conformation world. But as you mentioned, I think getting out on birds is what I want to keep doing for quite a bit longer. So Suge and I have had a wonderful time, and we'll keep going. She's really proven to be pretty, she got her junior hunter title for hunt test and AKC this past spring, and that was awesome. We did some NOPTA work. She did her NA test. She ended up getting a prize 3. But she's really proven that she loves the duck stuff. So we're going to keep going strong there. But I haven't got to do a field trial yet. And his dogs seem to really prevail in the field trial world. Can you go ahead and give me kind of a breakdown of what a field trial is like, and as starting out, what tests I should be signing up for and what I should be, kind of planning my training around, as far as what those main markers are that we're going to have to achieve in a young field trial?
So AKC field trials, so they're broken down into, I guess, two different sides. You have an open side and an amateur side. So the open side is open to both professional handlers and amateur handlers. So you can enter in an open stake as well as a professional trainer can.
Okay.
The amateur stakes are only open to amateur handlers. So if it says it's an amateur puppy stake, for example, it would only be open to amateur handlers. Now the puppy, and then you also have within those open and amateur branches, you have puppy stakes, which are open to puppies that are, I think, 6 months to 15 months. So they can run in a puppy until they're 15 months old, from 6 months of age to 15 months of age. And puppy stakes, I'm an AKC field trial judge, to me are the hardest thing to judge. Because the criteria is you're judging a dog's potential. So you judge their potential as either a gun dog or an all-age dog. Well, we all know that can depend on the minute with puppies. And puppies don't have to find bird, so they don't have to find game. In most puppy stakes, they don't fire blank pistols. And so you're really just trying to gauge this puppy's application. Are they out there really looking for something, or are we just kind of out there on a play run?
Sure.
And it can be hard. Puppies turn on and turn off really fast. They're kind of, their attention span is really short. And a lot can change between a 6-month-old puppy and a 15-month-old puppy.
Absolutely. Right?
So to me, puppy stakes are incredibly difficult to judge. And some of those, amateur puppy for an amateur handler is always going to be walking. So you're always going to be on foot. The open stakes can sometimes be off of horseback. So the dogs would be handled off of horse. You can walk in a horseback stake, but you can't horseback handle in a walking stake.
Sure.
Then your next option as the dogs get older is a derby stake. A little more is expected out of the dog in a derby stake. They can run from 6 months to 2 years. And I believe it's 2 years. I'm trying to learn my American field stuff too, because now I have pointers, and we're starting to branch out into some American field stuff too. And the ages
Yeah.
are a little different. But so Derby stakes, they want a little more, a dog that comes out knowing what they're there to do. They have to locate a bird. They have to point the bird, and you will fire your blank pistol. So people say it's kind of like a junior hunter brace. Yes and no. These are competitive. They're not pass fail. So you are competing with the other dogs in the stake for placements and for points toward a championship title. So they do want to see dogs that are actually, bold running. They want to see them hitting nice objectives. They want, to see a pretty, I guess, almost a grown-up dog. But again, you could enter a 6-month-old dog in a Derby. There's a lot of difference between a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old.
Absolutely.
So it's, those are often difficult to judge too, but there's criteria there. They do have to find a bird. They do have to point. And it can't be flash pointing. They have to establish a point. Then you move up into the big kid stakes, which are the gun dog stakes. These are your finished, polished bird dogs. They look, they have to have good application, nice ground race. These dogs have to be what they call broke. So they have to, when they point their bird, hold that point until you move in front of them, flush that bird, and fire your pistol. Then you move them on. So if
they move on from the bird, there's no, retrieval or anything like that. They just move on to the next bird.
Sometimes they do have a retrieve. If they do, those are typically done after all of that coursework is done in a very set up situation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Very controlled situation. And typically what they will do is they'll let all of the dogs do their coursework. So if you have 10 dogs in a gun dog stake, they'll run all 10 dogs. And the dogs that had, I guess what they would call clean bird work. So they had, excuse me, they had, they found birds on the course and things like that, that where the judges have dogs that they would consider eligible for a placement, they bring those dogs back to see them do their retrieve.
Okay, gotcha. So they're bringing back the ones that, are kind of worth seeing what else they can kind of do in that moment.
Right. These are the dogs that, sure, we're going to set them out. We're going to put a bird out for them, bring out the gunners, because it's, it's a risky situation when you bring live fire out.
Sure.
And we're going to bring this dog out. We're going to let this dog retrieve their bird. And it's kind of, they call it a callback. So they, let's say they bring 4 of those 10 dogs out, and those are the 4 dogs that they would, those are our 4 that we would use for a placement. And these 4 dogs have a chance to complete a retrieve.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. I've always wondered what the callback was, but
it's the retrieve.
Perfect sense. Okay.
Yeah, it's the retrieve. So, they want to see if, they're out on the course and your dog encounters it's, and they're run in brace in pairs. So you're running with another dog and another handler. If your dog encounters that other dog on point, it's to honor. So it has to honor its brace mate, which, it gets tricky. I mean, they want these dogs to be polished and nice, mannerly dogs. So, and again, these can be both off of foot or off of horseback. They can have amateur stakes here that are off of horseback. The only stake that is always walking is the amateur puppy.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. And then you gets a little trickier when you get into your limited gun dog stakes and what the requirements are to get into those and all that fun stuff.
That's perfect. I love that.
That's kind of the, short and sweet version
Yeah.
of it.
So it looks like for me personally, I'm going to be looking towards something for puppy stakes. It sounds like is when the age limit comes up as something we'll want to do. Now, let me ask you this. One thing I won't hold you up too much longer, but one thing I definitely learned personally from my journey with my bird dog is, we jumped into hunt tests pretty early,
Yeah.
to give you that age that you can, that the dog is eligible, which is typically around 6 months.
Uh-huh.
And I guess in my mind, I'm like 6 months, if that's when we can do it, let's go. So, we jumped right out there at 6 months. Do you think that is too early? Would you recommend waiting a little bit to, polish off a few young puppy skills? Or do you just say, hey, get in there and just start learning?
Well, I always say they're never too young to start learning. But I always gauge my dogs individually.
Absolutely.
Even within a litter, and this can be, kind of difficult as a breeder, where you have some owners and their dogs are doing really well and they're succeeding, and the other ones, they're just not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mature at the same rate. They just don't. I have a 2-year-old Vizsla who I love this dog to death. I love her fire. I love her personality. She's like nothing I've ever bred before, but she's just not there. And she gets out. She's got amazing, she seeks objectives. She's got great ground cover. She's beautiful to watch run, but if you want her to go critter hunting, she'll critter hunt all day long. But when it comes to getting out, and she'll sight point birds, and she'll stand them, and it's like, but when you put them in the launchers, she's like, this bullshit. And it's like, she knows. And for the life of me, I can't, I'm trying so hard, and she may be one that I've got to just go, okay, somebody's gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah, let's call Tate up,
Well, yeah, because the thing is I get frustrated, and she knows I get frustrated.
Absolutely.
And she looks at me like, why y'all mad?
I remember coming in from my first hunt test, and, Shug was, after sitting in the car about 8 hours, she was ready to run, and she was just busting birds, and, and after all the hard work, and, those moments can be highly frustrating. And I got back to the car, and for like 10 minutes, I just cried my eyes out. And it was like, I think I had another run in about 10 minutes. And, it's those moments where you have to just, okay, this isn't going to help my dog.
No.
I have to settle down, wipe the tears, get, shake off the bad vibes. So my dog's not like, what the hell's wrong with you? You want me to go out and do a good job, and you're in here crying?
You're acting like you're having a tantrum.
Exactly. Oh, well, it's
right.
And again, I'm not going to hold you up too much, but you've given so much wonderful insight. A few things I'd love to do is, number one, finally get you come visit. Now having 2 dogs, I'm looking for all the training opportunities we can get. And being in Indy, we do a bit of traveling to find those places, since, we are urban uplanders. We're in the urban setting, trying to find more upland space to work in. So if you're up for it, I would love to get together sometime. And also go into field trials more in depth, but I think in this episode, you did a wonderful job of, number one, explaining what field trials are like, explaining those good and bad moments that we have with our dogs, and, highlighting the fact that it's a journey, and in the journey, you're going to hit those milestones, but when you hit them, may be different than the next person. So I think that's super important, number one in life, but also in this community, is not to gauge your dog to other dogs, whether it's the same breed or, from the same breed, or they're all different. They're all growing at their own rates, and you keep up with it. And before you know it, your dog is just impressing you left and right. But you've been such a wonderful help through this journey. And again, I appreciate you so much. So to our listeners, this is Holly Hatfield, Red River. Is it Bird Dogs now is what we've changed it to?
It has to be. I can't call these pointers speechless.
I get it. Well, also, definitely look for that Facebook group, Bitches with Bird Dogs. You don't have to be a bitch to join, but, we do.
It helps.
It helps. But Holly, can you also give our listeners your other, Instagram handles and all that so they know where to find you?
Oh, sure. So Instagram is Red River Bird Dogs 2. Not 2. It's just Red River Bird Dogs. And you can also reach out to me on Facebook, just Holly Hatfield. And I have a kennel page, but it's pretty slow. Red River Bird Dogs as well. And the website is doing, it's in a big rebuild right now because, I had pointers to add. So
of course,
we had to change the URL and everything. So it should be up and running soon. But for right now, it's just the Instagram and Facebook.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. To our listeners, please join in next week as we will have our next episode ready on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Other than that, thank you so much, Holly.
Thanks, Melinda. It was good to talk to you. Hope to see you soon.
Sure.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Urban Uplander Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow Urban Uplander Pet Care on Instagram and Facebook for more pet care and upland hunting content.